right. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Heartbreak Heal Podcast. I have a very, very, very special guest today here to discuss her debut book. Keep it locked.
Yo, yo, yo! It's your girl Rose Gold, and thank you for tuning in for an episode of Heartbreak Heal Podcast. Here, we are breaking hearts and blowing minds, one conversation at a time. Catch us weekly on all podcast platforms. Beginning February of 2022, catch us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 17. Don't forget, if you have an email or a question you would like to have read on air, please send us an email to hbhp@heartbreakhealpodcast.com. While you're at it, don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms at Heartbreak Heal Podcast. Now let's break some hearts and blow some minds, shall we?
Hello again, and thank you so much for tuning in here. And if you are just now getting here, joining with us, I have with me author, speaker, and evangelist Kenyatta Hardaway, and she is here with us, blessing us. She's a very busy woman, y'all. She has she's got conferences. She's got the book going on that she's promoting. She just has a lot going, and she was able to put that aside and be here with us today. Kenyatta, welcome to Heartbreak Heal Podcast.
Thank you.
It is such a joy to have you here, and thank you again for being able to fit us into your busy schedule. And as I had already said in the introduction of this episode, Kenyatta is discussing with us today her book, Let Me Reintroduce Myself. You Don't Know the Cost. You guys, awesome book. And before, just so you guys kind of know, I always like to be transparent with my audience. I do know Kenyatta. Caveat though. So when we first came to Minnesota, okay, quick little backstory, Kenyatta. I got to let them know. Come on, backstory. When we first came to the state of Minnesota, okay, Kenyatta was a part of one of the very first churches that my mother and my brother went to. It was just us three at the time, and her family, they were so welcoming. I was probably about 7 at the time when we came to the Twin Cities, about 7 or 8. And man, I just remember her. I was intrigued by her just beautiful smile, and her skin was just always so smooth and pretty. And I just remember her being so nice. And so we reconnected when I was on Amazon. I'm a book reader and listener. I'm an avid book reader and listener. And I came across her book on on Amazon. And I went over to Facebook, and I seen that she has not only been doing great things, she's been doing God things. And I wanted her so badly to be on the show. So let's jump right in, Miss Kenyatta, now that I gave them that background. Let me reintroduce myself. Let's start, first of all, with the title. How did you come up with such a powerful title like Let Me Reintroduce Myself? It's so bold.
Well, wow. That title alone came from God. Being lost.
Yes.
When I was in, and one day he asked me to reintroduce myself. Did I know what that was?
Right.
Title from.
Okay, perfect. Now, Kenyatta, I do on your end, I do hear just a little bit of choppiness. Are you able to hear me okay as we're live here? Okay, if for some reason we get disconnected or whatever, I'll just join you back in. It's just a little bit choppy sound-wise. I think my background is picking up a little bit of noise too, but we're going to get this done, okay? So, okay, let me reintroduce myself. That title itself came from God. Now, I know that, and I don't want to spoil it, so I'm going to do my best to make sure that the audience can get a feel of the book without me telling too much about the book, okay? So, in the book, you talk about growing up as a child, right? And how a lot of trauma kind of contributed to the woman that you became and then later had to recreate. Kind of before we get to that journey, as a child, did you want to be an author? Is that something that you kind of knew already, or?
No.
It just kind of came about. How did you come to being an author, a good selling author at that?
Oh, well, just basically, I have a business coach.
Okay.
And going through that process, her helping me develop the ministry, everything talk, I would share with her like what I've been through, and she helped me with, to help develop the Reintroduce Myself ministry. And she's like, cousin, all this information, you need to write a book.
Mm.
But she's not the only person. I've heard it through my life.
Okay.
I didn't believe it.
Right. And so people have pretty much been telling you throughout your life that you need to put this information in your story in particular on paper. And you just recently decided to do it. What was that push that was like, okay, I think I'm going to listen to these people and go ahead and write myself a book? What was the push to do it finally?
Okay, well, not to give away what's in my book. Happened in 2020 during COVID. On the journey, I did a 19-day live. Holy Spirit instructed me to do, and that was to reintroduce myself for 19 days.
Wow.
Kind of where it came from, and gave me the courage to do it. Just by in those little 19 days, and literally I wrote the book in 19 days. But
wow.
In 21.
Gotcha. It's actually
122.
21-22. Gotcha. That's when it came to publish, but you wrote it during that time frame. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So kind of diving into the book, and of course feel comfortable sharing as much as you like. But you talk about how being traumatized as a child really shaped the woman that you became as you before you started the reintroduction process. What were some of the childhood traumas that you think had the most impact on who you became before the reintroduction process?
Some of the that I mean.
Yeah, like as a child, like what were some of those main traumas that you think shaped who you became as a woman before the reintroduction process?
Wow. The molestation, the verbal abuse, physical. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and in those three areas, you took that trauma, and that kind of pushed you into being the woman who you were before the reintroduction, right? Looking back, do you think that childhood is the root for a lot of people when it comes to the reintroduction process?
I think majority.
Majority of it. Majority of it. And how would you say, now this is all before the reintroduction piece started, right? So going through that abuse that you went through, and molestation and things like that, how did that shape how you begin to date and pick your partners?
Well, I pretty much wasn't a dater because I was married for 20 years. So I really didn't have much of a dating life.
Sure.
I don't know if I can really answer that. So I
Yeah.
really dating life like that.
Sure. Do you think that the trauma that you had as a childhood when you became a new wife, do you think that influenced how you maybe wived, or how you maybe showed up in that relationship as a wife? And
Absolutely.
how so?
When I first got married, into the marriage, he couldn't touch me. I didn't hugged or held because of my childhood being locked in the closet and without food, with just abuse, period. So when I got into my marriage, him even raising his voice, that was traumatic for me. So and through my marriage, I was never abused. Like, he never put on me. So let me put that.
Right. Bruce ain't doing that. No.
let me put that disclaimer out there. But just going into the marriage, pretty much that piece of being like intimate, that was really difficult going into the marriage.
Yeah. And when you first got married, had you already shared with your husband kind of what you had been through as a child? So he was kind of he was understanding of that part of you that needed to feel safe before you before you opened up. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how about can you, as you begin to show up, and 20 years is a very, very long time, right? When did you begin to notice that? When did you begin to notice that there was a shift in how you seen yourself after that trauma in your marriage? When did you start to see that, okay, my childhood trauma is affecting me to the point where I need to reintroduce myself?
Pretty much after my divorce.
Mm. Okay. Tell me more about that journey.
So like I said, we were married 20 years, but together 25 years.
Okay.
Coming out of that, I separated from him in 2014.
Okay.
And that's when my divorce was final. But from 14 to 16, those 2 years were very, very hard because my husband was all I knew. Like,
Yeah.
all I knew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From him being there for me and taking care of us, and for me to separate and leave, that was hard because I had to learn to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to that losing my identity, I had to go back to figure out, like, how me and my daughter, how do we put together a barbecue grill?
Right.
Like, I had to learn that. I had to learn all those things, and that was very difficult. The first 2 years of my separation was very difficult because I didn't know what it meant to be alone, to be by myself.
Yeah.
Ask God. One day I'm crying out to God, and I found myself on my face and crying out to God, like, God, I'm not used to being alone.
Right.
I hear the voice of the Lord tell me, daughter, you may be lonely, but you're never alone. I never told you that I would leave you nor forsake you. I'm here with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not alone. You're with me. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that moment, that gave me strength. And each after, I began to gather. I always had a relationship with Christ.
Sure.
But after that, I developed a deeper and more intimate relationship with him. So that helped me a lot, just the relationship with God.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said something very profound because I myself am divorced as well. And I think that kind of the, I guess, difference between when I got married pretty young as well. But I did have at least 2 serious boyfriends before I got married. And I think the difference after you leave a marriage, there's a different sort of vulnerability where you like feel like, wow, I'm no longer a part of this union. Like you really feel it. It's a very, very, very vulnerable moment. And I love how you say that God spoke to you and said, you may feel loneliness, but you are not alone, because there is a difference. But you know, when you're coming out of a marriage, it's hard to distinguish. So thank you for saying that. Do you think as you talk about leaving the marriage, I just want to back up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you going through what you went through as a child and as you developed your identity into a woman, do you think that that impacted how you chose who you wanted to say yes to when you got married?
No.
Not really. No. And do you think that when people are into situations where they are married and they love someone, do you think it can be difficult to kind of go back on your life and kind of see, I guess what I want to know is how can a person, or how did you really, when it came to, how did you have the courage after spending all of that time in a relationship with someone, and you said that you weren't a serial dater, you hadn't really had any serious boyfriends, anything like that. You had the courage to still leave that situation. And you did it also while self-reflecting. So you kind of did two powerful things at once.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get the courage to, first of all, leave and then be able to go back to your childhood and kind of dig up some of those old bones that you probably hadn't before?
Mhm. There, for me, there's a point in your life where you have to come to a point where you're fed up. You're tired of living the same way. You're tired of going to the same places. You're tired of doing the same thing. Even not even just in a relationship, but in your sinful nature. So I was tired of just a bunch of things, and I had to find out who I was. So because sometimes when we are in relationships, we lose our identity because we become who our family want us to be. We become who our friends want us to be, who the church want us to be, who, and I'm speaking for me, and who
Mm-hmm.
your children want you to be.
Right.
For me, being everything that everybody else wanted me to be, I lost myself because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my identity until he brought me back to him. So,
Right. Right. Perfect. So here you are, you make the decision, you say, okay,
mhm,
I am leaving this marriage. You guys are separated at this point. You are in this phase of this 2 years where you are genuinely looking for yourself, recreating yourself.
mhm.
What do you think? What would you say is the first step to the reintroduction process? Person is watching, they want to get started. They say, I want Kenyatta, you know what? That sounds good. I want to start reintroducing myself. What do you think is the first step to getting that process started?
The first step is knowing your foundation.
Mm,
My foundation is in God. You have to have a relationship with God. And I'm gonna go back to this really quick. And
yeah.
I'm one of the reasons. So I people always say to me, Kenyatta, you let the enemy come in and steal your marriage. The enemy stole your husband. No, to me, this is just me. I handed over my marriage. And why I say that is because I handed it over to the enemy because we didn't have God in our marriage at all. And you need God. You need God to make a relationship work, period.
Period.
So
That's right.
the church, I'm on here to be transparent tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Church, we are going to church pretending that we are happy and we got God. I'm singing in the choir. I'm
Yeah.
I'm praising the Lord, and then going back out to do something different.
Right.
So when you don't have that foundation, when that foundation is not real, your any relationship, I'm talking about friendship, relationship, whatever. When you don't have that solid foundation, which is in God, that's where I got my foundation. That's where my foundation lies. If you don't have that, it will crumble. It will. So my encouragement to anybody that's trying to reintroduce themselves on tonight, find that foundation, get you a church home, get under the waterings and the teachings of the Holy Spirit, and he will lead you. He will send you the man for you. Because what the Bible says, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing and he pertains favor. So get that foundation first. Get that foundation with God. Know who God is and you know who you are in, and know who how God sees you. That's how you're supposed to see yourself.
That's right.
Start.
That's exactly where you start. And I love everything you said. I specifically want to just go back to when you said when you got divorced, people were saying, oh, you let the enemy take your, people will do that when you leave a relationship,
Mhm.
or marriage even, right?
Absolutely.
Because they will when people say that misery love company, they're not always talking about, the physical presence. Sometimes people want you to be in situations that are not feeding you because that's what they're in. And I
Yeah.
love how you say nobody took nothing from you. You gave it over. And that's how I feel. Can't nobody take.
You make a choice. You make a choice.
Yeah.
It,
Yes.
it's a choice, and they get mad. They mad at you why you do that, but they never understand or they never know what you're dealing with. But the only reason why it's separated because we didn't.
Right.
Our marriage was not based on God where it should have been.
Same.
So
Same. And that's how I know that you are a powerful woman, because even just admitting that, you know what I mean? It was the same for me. I had to go back and realize, I was married because I wanted to be married. It wasn't God in there. You know what I mean? If I'm just being real. And it's so hard to be real with ourselves. And so I just love that transparency right there. So you talked about how your transformation started after you filed for divorce. Let me ask you this. Do you think that a person needs to be single? In your opinion, this is just popular opinion, not popular opinion, your opinion. Do you think that a person needs to be single in order to undergo a real transformation of reintroduction?
It depends on the situation. I don't think so.
It's not necessary.
Huh.
Okay, that's just kind of where yours started when you got by yourself, but it doesn't need to be there. It can start within anywhere, pretty much where you are.
Yep, absolutely.
Love that, love that. So, you talk about a little bit in your book how you kind of had that support system,
Mm-hmm.
the people around you, and how they encourage you. The ones that did, right? That were, some weren't so happy for you, but then the ones that were
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about how you were able to build your tribe during your reintroduction process. What did that look like for you, forming support in that environment of loneliness or feeling alone?
Mm-hmm. Um, First thing is trust. You have it's when you have been broken so many times you have been let down, you have been abandoned or um mistreated, you lose your trust.
Oh yeah.
I had to forgive,
Mm.
and not just forgive. You have Once you forgive, you have to love. I had to learn to forgive and love, and once I got over that, then I began to trust. You have to get into a place where you learn to trust people, because everybody is not going to be like your ex-husband. Every man is not going to be like your ex-husband.
Right.
Every friend is not going to be like the best friend that you lost, that she everybody is not going to be like this. You have to find a place in your life that you have to trust, right? You have to trust people and pray.
Mhm.
Pray. I had to pray for support. I didn't always have support. I
Right.
pray. Even right now, I'm
Yeah.
forming a conference right now, right?
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
had to pray for the support. The Bible tells us to seek him first, right? Seek God first. I had to seek him and ask him. He said, anything you ask in his name, it shall be so. So I asked for the support. You have
Right.
for it.
You asked for it. And did you feel that when you was there a part of you, when you were going through this reintroduction process, if there was a part, was there ever a part where you felt shame or embarrassment? And if so, what did you do with those emotions? How did you combat them?
You said before the reintroduce yourself?
Yeah, like during the process, as you decided that this is what you were going to do, not just marriage wise, but just that you were going to move forward, you were going to dig up the childhood traumas.
Mm,
Was there any part of you that felt embarrassed or shameful on this journey?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
first, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me about how you kind of got over those emotions of embarrassment and shame. And let me just say this, Kenyatta, because I feel
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of times that is a big, let me just speak for myself. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the reasons of why I stayed in certain situations, not just relationships, but even business deals, friendships, and things like that, you don't want to be like the failure, right? Or you don't want to be seen as the person who, you don't want to be seen as the person where it didn't work out. And so when you leave those circles or those friendships or relationships or whatever, there's a certain type of guilt, or not guilt, maybe shame or embarrassment that can follow you. How do you speak to getting over that? What did you do with those feelings?
Whew. To be honest, gathering all that and giving it to God. Was I always this way? No. But going through therapy wasn't is nothing wrong with going to therapy. I went to therapy. I sought my pastor. I the ministry team at my church, like different people, they will help you get through that. But even the Bible tells you you're more than a conqueror. So you can do all things through him who gives you the strength. So knowing that, applying the word of God, applying them scriptures and using them, pulling them out when you need them. We have no reason to be ashamed when we are in God.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's basically it. That's basically it. Just having that, back to having that support.
Just having that support.
In you and telling you, you know, you can do it. Come on, sister, get up. Right? That
You talked about when you reintroduced this is kind of the same thing that you kind of hinted on a little bit. You talked about when you began the reintroduction process, how there was a period where you were in complete solitude, right? Where there was not really a lot of, there wasn't really a lot of people in your tribe that agreed with you. This is before, obviously, the support and things like that. When you're walking on a journey of reintroduction and you're in that place of solitude, and God has you by yourself and he's talking to you and he's pruning you, what are some of the ways that you were able to still show up, work as a mom, as a ministry leader? You were still able to show up in those areas while you were being pruned in those moments of solitude, right? How were you still able to show up? What were some of the things you did on a daily basis that gave you the strength to show up in those spaces going through all of that?
God began to help me create a battle room, which is my prayer closet, but it's going in there praying, seeking God, listening for him, waiting for his answers. That gave me strength. Prayer, fasting, those type of things that kept me going. That kept me going. And just crying out to God, and he had me in a place where I couldn't even rely on people, because we go to our family members and go to everybody before we seek the Lord. And right now, I was telling my sister Crystal, like right now, when people coming to me before they go to God, I'm asking them, what did the kingdom say? What have you sought the kingdom? Because God tells us to seek him first. So go to him first. So I began to go to him first. It was a period in my life. He didn't allow me to go to anybody but him. I had to depend on him. And I believe that was probably when COVID started. You don't know where we
you didn't have no choice, right?
So
right.
And I'm to be honest, I believe that year was the year. That year, 2020, was the year that he taught me. He taught me that I have to rely on him. I had to rely on him. Nobody else was here. My daughter was here, but nobody else. No. So that pretty much it. And in my battle room. Just
in your battle room.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said something that is, I kind of want to question you about. You said that you begin to pray. You created your battle room. You begin to pray, but you also said that you begin to listen. Right now, I have my own methods of meditation, things like that. Tell me a little bit about what listening to God looks like after you pray. So, like I say, God, I need a new car. Tell me what listening to him would look like for me, or anybody who talks to God about something.
Basically, just being quiet. Not all going to God. I need God. Can you do this? Can you do this? Sometimes he just wants you to sit and listen. And I had to learn that. The Bible tells us to wait on him. Wait up on the Lord, and he will renew your strength. Listening, waiting patiently. That pretty much that. Even the disciples, they didn't hear from God all the time. They didn't hear all the time. They have to. So that's what I mean by just waiting, for instructions.
Taking time to listen. I love that because so many times when we speak about praying, like there's always that prayer piece, but it's rarely talked about the listening to the answers piece. You know what I mean? So I thank you for explaining that a little bit more. What are some of the signs?
Different from some, that just me.
Say it again.
I said that's just me. It could be different from other people, but
Right.
my relationship with God. So
Right. No. That's perfect because I love that. I love that. So let me ask you this. What are some signs? And you can give me maybe two or three, whatever you feel comfortable with, that you can come up with off the top of your head. What are some signs? A person is watching this. What are some signs in their lives that it may be time for a reintroduction?
hmm, some signs.
Yeah.
Well, if you find yourself keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you keep actually, my niece just did a live about a TikTok about this. But
Okay.
you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're still getting the same results. The same results. You there's a point in your life, like I said before, like you have to be tired of running. You have to be tired of sinning. You have to be tired of just entertaining the world. And you have to make a decision. So for me, I would say it's time to reintroduce yourself back to Christ. If you're tired of doing the same things, you're tired of getting the same results.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you think so? According to what you're saying, is that, what I hear you saying is that a lot of that reintroduction process, or pretty much all of it, it
Mhm.
starts with a personal choice
Personal choice. Yep,
that this is what you want to do.
absolutely. Hmm.
And are there any regrets that you have for the reintroduction process? Anything that you had to let go of that you missed, or that you wish you could have took with you out of the world, or anything like that?
Nope.
I didn't think
Our
so.
pastor just preached a couple on Easter Sunday. Ain't nothing in the tomb. Ain't nothing to go back. I don't want to go back to nothing. There's nothing to go back to. It's buried.
Absolutely
Even
dead.
if the enemy, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And I was just telling another sister about this.
Yeah,
The enemy can't kill me because I'm already dead with Christ. So
that's
he ain't doing nothing. So,
that's right.
so
Absolutely.
I don't regret nothing.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So
Mhm.
let me. So I kind of already kind of said it a little bit at the beginning of the show,
Mhm.
but Miss Kenyatta is more than just an author. She's author also, excuse me, an evangelist, a speaker. Tell
Mhm.
me about the conferences that you are having, and actually, there's one coming up in August. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, yep. So this will be our third annual conference for Reintroduce Yourself, and it's called No Woman Left Behind.
Okay.
This year's theme is the crossover.
Mm,
And what the crossover is crossing over and to become who God has called you to be, right? And
mm,
there are some things that stop us from crossing over: procrastination, fear, anxiety, um, choices.
mm.
So it's August 19th and the 20th and the 21st.
Yes.
The tickets are at reintroduceyourself.org, and there's a meal included each day.
Yeah.
It is $65. Just come on and come out and get what God has for you. Get ready to cross over. We can't stay the same. You can't.
Absolutely.
If you want to change, it's a choice.
Absolutely. I love that. And as we go ahead and wrap up here, Kiana, I just have
Mhm.
one last question for you. And those of you who did not get that website, don't worry. I'm going to have the reintroduceyourself.org in the comments, as well as a link where you can purchase Miss Kenyatta's wonderful book. But as we wrap up here, I would like to ask you one last and final question.
Yeah.
Okay. There's somebody watching this,
Hmm.
and they are on the fence. Okay. A part of them wants to leave old things behind and reintroduce themselves. But then the other part of them is conflicted and comfortable with who they currently are.
Hmm.
What would be your words of encouragement to that person to the reintroduction?
Whew. Well, for those of you that are listening, and if this you, the first thing I would say to you is make a decision. Make a decision and give your life to Christ. Because I was where you were. I was that person. I was in the club and then at church the next day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice that you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
Choice you have to make, and God says, choose ye this day whom will you serve. We cannot serve two gods.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's you, and even if after this live or this, if you would like to contact me, and if you need prayer, I have a prayer team at my church. This extended invitation is out there. You don't have to stay the way that you are. So that's what I would say. You don't have to stay the way that you are.
Absolutely wonderful. I love that so much, Kenyatta. Listen, Heartbreakers, you heard it here from us, from Miss Kenyatta herself. Heartbreak Hill Podcast. I'm so honored to have had you on the show. As I said already earlier, ladies and gentlemen, if you did not hear her website for where to go ahead and purchase those tickets for the conference, as well as to purchase her book, I will have all of those links in the description. Now, if you are watching this, you can get more from Miss Kenyatta, Facebook, Instagram. Reintroduce yourself. Also, follow her on TikTok. Reintroduce yourself 413, all one word. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with us today. Kenyatta, thank you so much for coming. Those of you watching, please keep it locked as we come back with the question of the week. All right. Thank you so much again for joining Heartbreakers. Before we go ahead and let you go, as promised, we are coming with the question of the week. For those of you who don't know what this is, okay, early on in the show, we started allowing people to write into the show and get responses from myself and people on my staff. So to kind of expand on that, what we started to do is we've started to pick questions from that pool and read them on air. Now, that does not mean that we're not still going to respond. It's just that some of the questions are picked at random and answered on air. Todd, wonderful guy on our team who picks them, he picks the ones that he generally feels like will help our audience as a whole. Okay, let's get right into it. Today, we have Jennifer from DC. Oh, shout out to the DMV. Jennifer from DC says this. Hello, Rose Gold. I have a very serious issue that I have a very serious issue that I think a lot of women are currently experiencing. Right now, I have been with the father of my child for 4.5 years, and we have 2 beautiful children together. I am in the process of trying to be married. I am in the process of trying to get him. Okay, I see. I am in the process of trying to get him to marry me. Excuse me, guys. But he does not seem to want to get married. He often is liking other women's pictures on social media, but he has not cheated as far as I'm concerned. How can I move forward? How can I move forward with us getting married, or getting him to ask me to marry him, or getting him to ask me to marry him? Excuse me, guys. I'm running off a little bit of sleep here. So basically what Jennifer is trying to ask, it seems like she's been with the father of her child for a while now. She wants to get married. Jennifer, I want to first of all say that you are not you're not weird or crazy or nasty or dirty for wanting to get married after you've had children by somebody, right? I think that where a lot of women go wrong is thinking that they're wrong for wanting to be married, right? It's not wrong or absurd or abnormal for a woman to want to be married after, even before she has a child. Jennifer, what I would encourage you to figure out and to speak to your child's father about is if he wants to get married. That's what really matters. You hear a lot of people say stuff like, well, it does take more than a year to get married. You know, if we've been together 10 years or 5 years and we still haven't got married, there shouldn't be a problem with that. And I want to tell you that I agree with that. I think that you know, there are couples that stay together 5, 10 years and they get married, you know, after being together for 10 years, they finally get married. Or after being together for 5 years, they get married, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I will tell you that it does not take that long to see if you want to marry somebody. Okay, there's a difference. So while it may take you 5 or 10 years to pop the question, it doesn't take you that long to figure out if this is something you want to do. Generally, if it takes that a person over a year and a half to talk about marriage with you, it means that they're not looking for a spouse. That's all that means, okay? That they're not looking for a husband or a wife. Because generally, when you're dating for marriage, there's certain characteristics and qualities that you're looking for in a person, right? You want to know if they're honest, if they have integrity, if they're loyal, if they're trustworthy. Those qualities don't take you 5 and 10 years to figure out. Okay, so I would just say that if it's been over that year mark, it's a possibility that he just may not be ready to get married, and you have to decide, is that what you want right now? Do I think that you should break up with a person just because they're not ready to get married? It depends on if you want to get married. It depends on what you want. I think you should break up with a pair person if they don't want to get married and you do. That's just what I believe, you know, but then again, you know, that's just what I think. So as far as how to get him to marry you, there's no such thing as getting somebody to marry you. You can make yourself a good candidate for being a wife by doing wifely things. And Proverbs 23 talks about that, you know, but even just on a practical level, respecting him, honoring him, and all those different types of things will make him look at you, I guess, in wifey light. But as far as getting somebody to marry you, there's not really a such thing as that. People, even women that say that I made him marry him, they really didn't. It was his choice. So I would say, honey, decide whether or not you want to get married right now. Talk to the father of your child and see if that's what he also wants. And then if he doesn't want that, then you have to decide, does he want that eventually? Talk to him about this at length. Are you guys going to wait some time? Or maybe it may be time to end the relationship if he doesn't believe in marriage or doesn't want marriage at all. Okay? Listen, as I said, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with me. Don't forget to follow us on all platforms. And don't forget, we are here every week. Breaking hearts, blowing mind, one conversation at a time.